eyes are burning holes through me. I'm gasoline, I'm burning clean. 20th century, go to sleep. I'm plasticine, that is obscene. That is obscene. You are the star tonight, the sun electric out of sight. You might eclipse the moon tonight. Electrolite, you're out of sight. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Closet Recording Studio. Thanks for joining me again for another episode of Bad Guitar Covers and Bonus Literary Analysis, where we play a little bit on the guitar and sing a little bit and talk about the lyrics of songs. I've kind of decided that the first series of these songs are going to be R.E.M. songs. The first one was on Losing My Religion, so I'll put a link to that in the description below and probably up in the little card up there too. So go check that out if you want to. This one is for one of my very favorite of their songs, Electrolite, from New Adventures in Hi-Fi. That was 1996, I think. It is one of my very favorite albums in the world. So, as with Losing My Religion, which was I Played You on the Guitar, but is primarily a mandolin song, this is piano and banjo song, in fact, are the two lead instruments on here. Michael Stipe has described this song as being about Los Angeles, being about going up. We'll get to there's a part on there that talks about Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is a road that goes up into the Hollywood Hills, and you can kind of sit up there on the road and look down over the whole city. And he described the song as being about going up there near the end of the 20th century. He would have written this in 1995, 96, and writing kind of not a lullaby, even though it does. It is the last song on that album. Writing a love song, sort of, to the 20th century. He says a couple times, 20th century, go to sleep, go and sleep. So you have the song, and he's sitting up on, or the perspective of the song is sitting up on Mulholland Drive, up above Los Angeles, and looking down over the city at night, and the bright lights and stuff, and it kind of looking like a blur of lights. Anyway, so that's the general context of the song. The first thing that we have to decide, kind of as we get into the actual analysis of the lyrics, and talk not necessarily in analysis terms, but in the structure of the poem, sort of, and the structure of how it's put together. You have to, when a poem is started with you, your eyes are burning holes through me. We have to decide who, or learn or figure out who you is. We can assume, for most of Michael Stipe's lyrics, the lead singer and song, or the lyricist for R.E.M., that many of them can be taken to mean more than one thing. He addresses in the third line 20th century, so the you could be the 20th century. The 20th century's eyes are burning holes through him. As he describes the song, it could be Los Angeles, the lights in the city are burning holes through him. Obviously that's an exaggeration, it's hyperbole, right? It's not literally burning a hole in his chest or whatever. But it also could be a person too. And it's, and the confluence, the coming together of those three things, it's pretty common to portray a city as a human, or giving it human characteristics. We see that in the Chili Peppers' Under the Bridge, for example. That's another song that's addressed to Los Angeles. But as we go through, we want to think about who the you is. Um, so your eyes are burning holes through me. I'm gasoline. That's a simile, right? I am actually it's a metaphor. I am gasoline, and I'm burning clean. So it is not only the idea that he's portraying himself as a flammable substance, but there's lots of burning images, right? There's burning there, there's burning here. You'll see more about light and fire as we go through. But he's portraying himself, the I in the poem, as a conduit for the fire, right? As something that the fire of whatever you is, the city, the person, whatever, is making him burn brighter too, right? Because obviously if you light gasoline on fire, it's going to explode and have a huge flame. So it'll be important to kind of track the burning and the fire and the light metaphors, and the contrast of light. I'll write this on my forehead, of light and dark imagery here, because that contrast is going to, I think, give us some insight about how the structure of the poem's put together or whatever. Then your Pleistocene, that is, I think of that as a dark image. Pleistocene age is kind of an era, I guess. I think they call them in history. We call it more commonly the Ice Age. So you think of winter and cold and dark as dark images. So that is the you that is burning holes through him is also cold, right? So you have cold and hot images being contrasted with each other, and he says that's obscene, which could mean it's ridiculous, or it could mean vulgar, like sexual vulgar, right? I want to go to Pleistocene for a second. That is a lyric that I thought originally said plasticine. Let me put that in a different color. Was plasticine, which is a plastic-like substance, whatever. So that is kind of a wink at the story of Los Angeles, or the stereotype, I guess, of Los Angeles is that it's fake plastic, nobody's really what they seem, lots of plastic surgery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That's a stereotype of the city, and a stereotype of the 20th century too, actually. So where there's a lot of plastic things and a lot of stuff coming into being that is fake or not natural materials. My understanding is that Pleistocene, the Ice Age, is the actual lyric, but we can definitely assume, knowing Michael Stipe, that he likes using double meanings in his words. So I'm guessing that he means it both ways, or is at least winking at both meanings of that. It says, "You are the star tonight, your sun electric out of sight. Your light eclipsed the moon tonight." I always thought this lyric, and you probably heard it me singing at the beginning, I always thought this lyric right there was, "You might eclipse the moon tonight." That's another dark image, right? An eclipse. It's an actual, they're putting light and dark right beside each other, right? You have the moon, that's bright, but the moon is also not the sun, right? So you have these contrasts, like the sun's out in the day, the moon's out at night, and you have night and day. You have the moon is reflecting the sun's light. You have an eclipse of the moon too, so it's blocking out the sun. So it's like three different versions of light, reflected light, and darkness, all three going on. And you're talking about, and since he's writing here in this, was it third line, about the 20th century going to sleep, that is, you're getting the feeling of sundown here, right? He goes from a star tonight, then the sun, then the light eclipse the moon. I mean, probably literally what he's talking about is that the lights in the valley in Los Angeles are bright enough that the moon is not as bright. They're kind of, they don't overshadow the moon, but they draw your attention away from it, right? The light of the city eclipse the moon. But the you can also be like the person, right? Or the people, maybe even in the city. Who are the ones that are turning on the lights, the electric lights? So it's interesting. And then we get the first indication of where he is. If I ever want to fly Mulholland Drive, if I want to fly, he's suggesting maybe that he's getting the feeling of flight up there. I don't know if any of you have ever been like up there on that road, but you get up there and you're looking down. Hollywood is literally under you, like you're looking down over the city, and these three guys. He talks about this in an interview, actually. Martin Sheen, Steve McQueen, and James Dean are all very famous male actors of the 20th century. James Dean was, leather jacket, cigarette, rebel guy. Steve McQueen was not leather jacket, cigarette, rebel. He was like a race car driver in a lot of movies. Both of them were like super, 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 super macho kind of guys. Martin Sheen is a very famous comedic actor, and his son Charlie is also one of the most famous bad boys in Hollywood too. But you have those three guys, he says, as like representations of different kinds of masculinity and macho kind of behavior in the 20th century, but he doesn't say these are the examples of this. He actually says, I am all of these people. Like, so the narrator of the poem, the narrator of the song, he is all of those things. He encapsulates all of those things. The rebel, the macho race car man, the funny guy. Like he is saying, I am all of these things, and they are all like within me, which is cool. And thinking about like what it means to be both masculine and be alive at the end of the 20th century, right? Those people all lived in that area, like as Hollywood living under him, right? Like in that valley below where he was. And it's interesting to think about now, this idea of a star, right? Because the sun is a star, but you're also in Hollywood, right? So you're thinking about the word star being a star in the sky, but also a star being a movie star, like a person too, right? So you can think, when I read it, when you read this first part right here, it feels like it's talking about the stars in the sky, the star, the sun, the light eclipse the moon, right? That in this part's the chorus, and it says the same words, but when it follows these three names and it says Hollywood is under me, and it actually gives you the place, Mulholland Drive, we tend to read it, or I tend to read it or hear it as you are the star, like the movie star. Since he has all of those things within him, maybe you have these stars within you too. And he says you are the star tonight. Your son, this person, or the city, I guess probably person, electric, out of sight. You have this fake too, right? Electric. It's not a natural light. And your light eclipsed the moon tonight. Electric or electrolite. You're out of sight. All right, so I chose to break the lyrics there where the instrumental break would have been. As we talked about in the last episode too, and if you've ever heard me talk about poetry ever, when people choose to repeat lyrics or repeat repeat words or phrases in songs is almost always important. Sometimes with lazy songwriters, it has to do with the fact that they can't think of anything else to put there. But with the expert songwriters that we're going to be talking about on this series, we can assume that they can think of other words. They just think these are the most important. And we think, so in some ways, the choruses are the most important because those are almost always repeated. But this song, like Losing My Religion, actually has parts of verses and parts of the song that are not, you wouldn't think of as the chorus being repeated too, right? The Mulholland Drive part. If you ever want to fly, Mulholland Drive. This is a little different part here. Up in the sky, stand on a cliff and look down there. Don't be scared. You are alive. You are alive. And then he goes back. You are. Right. So that part's a chorus or pre-chorus kind of. They generally tend to think the electrolite part is the chorus. But yeah, so that part has a lot of lyrics that are repeated. It still gives you the same place. Fly if you want to fly Mulholland Drive up in the sky, because it feels like you're up in the sky standing up there above Los Angeles. But it says to stand on a cliff and look down there. That'll make you feel like you're flying. He's not suggesting jump, just to be clear. But like it feels like you're up in the sky, and it feels like you're looking down. Well, you are looking down over the city, but it feels almost like flight. Think of like standing on the lip of the Grand Canyon. It's that kind of looking down over. I remember the time that I really felt like that was going up on the Marin Headlands up above the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and looking down over the bay and over the city. It has the same kind of feeling, like almost like you're flying. It says, and he says, "Don't be scared. You are alive." Right? You are alive, and he repeats that. You are alive. Part of that's just to make the lyric work, but many of the images that have come before light. It's not just light and dark, but light moving to dark, which makes sense in the context of writing a song for the end of the 20th century. Things are like turning out the lights, right? He's asking you to like revel in the fact that you're still alive as part of this too, right? You're part of, you're alive, you are, this is something to enjoy, even though the 20th century is going to sleep, so to speak. You're still alive and you're still going to go on from there, and there's nothing to be scared of. And then here at the end too, it's this line, the first line is repeated, 20th century go and sleep. That is addressing the 20th century again, really deep. He said that line is kind of a tongue-in-cheek phrase that is making fun of the fact it's not, you can't really write about something like super metaphysical and serious in a pop song, right? It's a really hard thing to do. He's saying I'm being really deep, but he's like, all right, it's not a real thing. We won't blink. That's another wink, blink, right? The we won't blink fits with this, right? Your eyes are burning holes through me. We won't blink. We're going to look back at this thing that's burning holes through me. Like it's something that's bright and that's scary, but it's not something to be afraid of. We're going to look back and be strong and not back down from it, but embrace the eyes burning, even though we're gasoline, as it says in the beginning of the song. We're going to embrace that and burn our way through it, so to speak. And he says, "I'm not scared." This is a pairing with this one up here, right? Don't be scared. The first one's addressing to you, probably the audience of the song, right? The you in the song, saying, "Don't be scared. You're alive." It's interesting because it feels now to me like this part here, where we talked about the you previously being like the city or a beloved or something like that. It feels like this "Don't be scared, you are alive" is addressed directly to you, like the listener of the song. And so it go this and in that way, this chorus part, "You are the star tonight, your sun electric out of sight, your light eclipse the moon tonight." The first time it feels like it's addressing the city. The second time it feels like it's addressing like a Hollywood people, or asking a specific person to find the Hollywood or the strength within themselves. This one feels like it's addressing the audience, like the listener of the song specifically. And it's cool to hear how the you is being changed. I think it's pretty cool. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the end right there. I mean, that end of the music before the end of the lyric kind of mimics the end of the 20th century. It's almost like the 20th century stops and "I'm not scared." The music kind of mirrors that. "I'm out of here." And then it cuts off the chords. "I'm not scared. I'm out of here."